Good afternoon, ladies. Welcome to JBDC Virtual Biz Zone. My name is Dania Bennett, your host for the afternoon session. And this afternoon session is facilitated by the JBDC's Technical Services Department, responsible for assisting clients with their product development needs from concept to market. And this Biz Zone series has been happening for several months now, and we have explored different topics ranging from ergonomics, efficiency, all as well incorporating how you can manage these elements during this season of Corona. But we have also explored product development elements as well. As a matter of fact, last week we explored developing your products for success part 2. And this week we are actually doing a little bit of product development in a sense, because we're actually looking at affordable gifting for the season product ideas. So we will be pitching a couple ideas that you can actually utilize as potential products that you can earn from, sell, you can gift to friends and so forth to earn a little income in this season. So our presenter this week is actually Mrs. Makedia Pryce-Johnson, and she is a garment construction specialist here at the JBDC. She is a textile and fashion design expert, and she is a graduate of the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. She completed her bachelor's there in textiles with a major in fashion design, and she has over 6 years of experience in the fashion industry. So ladies and gentlemen, our presenter is Mrs. Pryce-Johnson, and she's very good at what she does. She has been on this platform before, so she's no stranger to it, and I'm sure she will be doing an excellent job today in showing you some ideas that you can utilize for the season. As usual, well, Makedia, I'm gonna allow you to go forward with your presentation because her setup is a little bit different this week. And so Makedia, I'm turning it over to you now.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for tuning in. Now, the Christmas season is fast approaching on us. It is the most wonderful time of the year, still is, even though COVID is in play and everything. Now, I know for this year in particular, persons are a bit strapped for cash, being that a lot of unplanned events have popped up, and always we're trying to save whatever we can. All right, so these projects will help you in the event that if you have any fabrics lying around, if you have any old clothing items that you're looking to reinvent, make purposeful, and to make a beautiful gift for a loved one, these should come in handy. So I am just going to show you a few items that I'll be using in the projects today that you can get. So the most important item would be woven fabric. So woven meaning it is non-stretch. This piece I got at Pablo's, printed fabric, $4.70 per yard. You don't need more than a half yard for the project. If you have any sturdy sheets lying around, any denim, as long as it is non-stretch, woven. So that means that the thread are intertwined and it makes the fabric more sturdy and durable. Another thing that will come in very handy is the fusible pellon. This is what we press onto the fabric to reinforce the strength of it. Also, we'll use fabric glue, which I will show you later on. And then the usual, we're sewing, so you know you need pins, scissors, tape measure, tailor's chalk, that sort of thing. Also, for one of the projects, we'll be using a little piece of Velcro, yes. And a little piece of leather. So faux leather, vinyl, leatherette upholstery, whatever we call it. You can get them in different ways, starting at a price of around $650 at the local fabric store. So it goes up based on the ruggedness of it and the thickness. Okay, so with that said, I am going to introduce the first item that we'll be looking at. I'm going to show you the finished product. So here we have a cord organizer, or you can call it a charger roller. So I'm just going to go and open that. You can get a clear picture of what it looks like. So you have the pockets and compartments, and you will just roll back right up. You have your string attached, and you keep it secure. So this is good for everyday use. It's unisex, both males and female will find it extremely useful. You put your chargers in it, your earphones, any small device, flash drive, you name it. And you roll up, drop in your bag so that you have everything kept in place and in reach. So I'm just gonna go right ahead and share that video with you.
First item on the Christmas list is the cord organizer. All right, so here I have pre-done the patterns for it. So this would be the larger piece, and then the pocket that would fit about right there when it is finished sewn up. Then we will have a little fold here that would make an additional pocket space. All right, so I'll start by putting the pattern onto the fabric itself and cutting directly from that. Okay, so here we have two different types of fabric. We have what we use for the lining, and this fabric is called linen. And then we will use the Ankara print cotton fabric for the fashion fabric. Fashion meaning it's going to be shown on the outside. So I'm just going to start cutting with the fashion fabric. So turn it the right side up, and I'm going to place the larger pattern piece right on top of it and just start pinning to keep it in place. Just enough to prevent it from slipping while cutting, because you want to keep the measurements straight. So this pattern has in the allowance in it, the sewing allowance. So I'll cut it exactly flush to the edge without leaving any extra fabric. So now that I have my perfect rectangle from the fashion fabric, I'm just going to take this off quickly, the pattern piece. And I'm going to use this exact piece that I have cut from the fabric and just put it directly onto the lining and use it to measure to get them matching up perfectly. After I smooth out, I pin again. Then I'm ready to cut. So this will take care of this larger bit. So it is cut twice on the two different types of fabric. what we'll be using for the lining, which in this tutorial is my red linen, and the outer part, which is the printed fabric. Now, as you have noticed, I have a smaller part, which would be a pocket. That piece is going to be cut just with the fashion fabric. So I'm going to go ahead, place that here, and pin in place. Okay, so after I have pinned my pocket in place, just going to cut exactly around it. And now we have all our pieces. So the next step is to move directly onto the pressing, where I will press on the interface onto the fabric. Here we're on the pressing board. So we have our fashion fabric laying out. It is wrong side up, and we have our fusible pellon. So on one side there is adhesive, and on the other side there isn't. So we are going to place the side that has the adhesive directly on top of the fabric. And we're just going to use the iron to keep it in place. Once we're sure that it is onto the fabric, we can turn it over to the other side now, just to reinforce. Now we have our piece of fabric that is perfectly fused with the fusible pellon. So the next step is to move directly into sewing. Here we have our lining fabric on top of the fashion fabric, and we can see where the fusible pellon is to the back. So what you should have is both right sides of the fabric facing each other, and you just pin that in place. Now we're ready to sew. So keep in mind that the pattern has 1/2 inch seam allowance, so you're just gonna measure that. Your machine should have lines to help you keeping it in place too, so you can use the line as a guide. So after I have finished sewing one side, what I would normally do is just stop, lift the foot, pivot the fabric, and continue sewing. Now I'm going to stop midway, go to the reverse stitch, I'm going to leave. So the opening that I will leave here is to allow you to pull it over onto the right side. So I'm just gonna stretch down, leave a nice little gap. Reinforce. And you meet back where you would have started your sewing and make sure you reinforce that place. I'm making sure to remove all the things that I did not get along the way. Cutting this thread by the opening. And this is what it looks like on the underside. So now we're seeing it's perfectly on the side as well. You have your 1/2 inch seam allowance going around, and this little opening that we had left to be able to pull it through. So here I measure, and I have 6 inches apart. So before we turn it over, we're just going to trim close to that edge, but not too close, because then you will have the seam pulling, and we don't want that to happen. So this trimming is to allow it to turn smoothly and to have a point. So we do that for all the edges. After which, we're now going to turn it over. And you can use your finger to try and get those edges. What I normally do in cases like these is also to use the point of the scissor. And it just eases it out nicely like that. Now, after sewing this piece, before closing it up, we are going to go right back to pressing so that we have it laying nice and flat. And complete that aspect. All right, so here we are on the iron board. So we're just going to take our iron . While pressing this part, make sure to take key note of the opening that you would have left. Now you want to still have a perfect 1/2 inch allowance there to let it blend in as smooth as possible. So you're going to take your time. Try to get it in nicely. There we go. Now we're going to move back to the sewing machine and we're just going to do a top stitch right around close to the edge. So here we have our main piece of our organizer. Now what we will do to make our first pocket is that we are going to fold up one end, and this fold is going to be approximately 5.5 inches. So after you have measured that, you're going to pin in place. Make sure you have it 5.5 going right across. Then we go back to our machine and you are going to use the first stitch as a guide. Now you can start from the top here above that stitch line. That way, you know, using over time, it won't allow it to pull down, so it secures it. Show your back stitch. Then we do the opposite side. Again, you are following the seam that is already there. Have our first pocket there. Remove the pins. So now we have our little pocket piece that we had cut at the beginning. So we are going to go ahead and do what we call a rolled hem stitch. So I use my finger to kind of finger press that down, which would be 1/2 inch allowance, and I'm going to fold it again, and that's another 1/2 inch. going to go again and just do a finger press. So this is if the fabric is structured enough where it will keep that crease without you having to go to the ironing board. And this pocket is going to be placed right in the middle there. So we almost have equal measurements to either side of it. So it falls right there. Now you can use your pin to secure it in place after you are comfortable with the placement. So here I have my pocket pinned down. So now we're going to secure that pocket. So again, we start from the top and we use the edge of the foot as a guide. You're going all the way down. And we have our smaller pocket. Now, to add compartments to this, you can either choose to put another stitch directly in the middle, or whether you want to have one side larger, one side smaller, based on the nature of what you're putting in it. So if you want to have a smaller set, you could put like a flash drive there, or any other smaller device or cord. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine close to the middle. So being that it doesn't have to be exactly measured apart, if you are not so comfortably doing a stitch directly without any measuring or mark, you can use a tailor's chalk and a ruler, make that mark, and you can always go back and erase the chalk mark. So here we have almost finished with our pockets. Now the only thing left is to add the string, and that is what we'll be doing next. All right, now I have cut the piece that I will be using to make the string. So it is about 26 inches long, and the width of it is 1.5 inches. So the reason for the width being 1.5 inches is that you are going to fold 1/2 inch allowance or 1/2 inch in rather on either side. So after you make that fold, just press it in place. Then you do the same for the opposite side. Then while I'm sewing, this is what it is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just fold from here to make things easier. So you have the option of making your string a little longer. I would not recommend having it shorter than mine, which is 26 inches. And you also can use ribbons or decorative cords. Doesn't have to be a string made from the fabric. So I'm just gonna go over directly to the sewing machine and just sew that in place. Okay. So before I sew it close, I'm just gonna fold that edge top piece here. Fold it like that to keep the raw edge inside and from fraying. Also do it to this end before it gets close. Fold and then fold inward. And here we have our string complete. So what you're going to do now is that you're going to sew this string on top in the middle. So I am just going to just do an X stitch. So after I get there, ease up. Across. Then the other diagonal. That's what it looks like. Now, this does not have to be done like this, it is optional. You could have just gone right around, or even a single stitch in the middle should be enough. So So I'm just going to trim all the excess threads that are hanging about. And here we have the complete thing. You have your pockets, larger compartment, smaller compartments, perfect for earphone, phone charger, any other device that can fit here. And it rolls up nicely. Then this is where the string comes in play. And you wrap it around as much as you like. And you simply just stick down like that to keep it good. Or however you wish to make your knot. And that's it.
All right, guys, so that was the first item on the list. So the other that I'm going to go into would be a storage bag. Very handy item to have in the household. I know that a lot of us have storage problems. We have a whole heap of something and we need to pack them away. What better way to do it than a nice creative way that you can customize? And also it can be done in different sizes. So I consider this to be the small. You can go smaller, which is an extra small, and larger. So the pattern pieces that will be shown into the video, those you can just increase the inches to get the desired size that you'd want. And then the item is based on however you want to work with it based on the size. So I'm just gonna go right ahead into that.
Our next item on the list is the fabric storage bag. Now here I have my pattern again pre-done, and this one would be the small. So to grade up to get a larger bag, you just increase the measurements. To get an extra small bag, the 13 inches would be 11 by 11 inches. And the corners, instead of 3 inches, it would be about 2.5 inches. So we're working with the small measurements. Here I have an additional strap, which is optional. So I'll just do the tutorial with the strap piece as well. So it is 20 inches by 1.5 inches wide. And both patterns have the 1/2 inch seam allowance going around. Now for the fabrics for this bag, I am actually going to be mixing prints. I think that should give a fun, interesting result. So this one that I have used earlier with the cord organizer, I'm gonna mix it with this vibrant red and orange print. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting onto the fabric. And I'm also just going to go right ahead, being that I have the fabric right here at hand, and I'm going to do the same for the strap. So again, I like using the right sides facing in whenever I'm cutting. I find that to be easier, just in case you want to make any mark for direction or to clarify something, you won't have it showing onto the right side after the product is finished sewn up. Now, after you are confident that you have your pattern laid down flat enough onto your fabric, you're just going to go ahead So we want to repeat the process with this fabric that I'm using as my lining fabric for this back project. Again, right sides facing each other. And like I did before, with the cord organizer, I'll be using the cut itself from the outer fabric to just cut the lining piece. So just pin that in place on top. So we have all our pieces. So I'll just separate the outer piece from the lining piece now. And just as we did before, we are going to use our fusible pellon and we're going to press it onto the outer fabric, which should give its structure and hold to keep the shape that it will have. Also, over time in using products like bags, etc., you need it to have some rigor to it. So we're going to move over to the pressing station and apply our fusible pellon. So here we have our fusible pellon. 2 pieces, and we have our outer fabric. Now we are going to turn the fabric wrong side facing up, and again we're using the side that has the adhesive facing the fabric so that it sticks together, fuses. repeat the process. Wrong side facing up. So that's the front and the back of your bag. I'm gonna go ahead and do the strap as well. And then we move over to sewing. Okay, so now we are going to start sewing together our storage bag. So place both pieces together, right side facing each other. And pin to keep in place. Again, keep in mind the 1/2 inch seam allowance. We're going to go all the way down. Make sure to back stitch. So I won't cut it, I'll just continue sewing. Make sure to take note that where the corners are, they're left open. So you don't continue sewing like that. Only sew along these 3 ends. After that is done, you're just going to slightly finger press, and you're going to turn the bag onto the right side. Make sure the seams are open, especially when working with layers of fabric, to prevent any bulking or anything like that happening. You open the seams. And you turn on to the right side. So this is what we have before these parts are closed. So I'll just turn it over to give you an idea. So when you're sewing those corners, all sewing is done on the wrong side. And what you will do is that you're going to meet the seams. So we have the side seam and we have the bottom seam of the bag. So we're closing these openings now. You meet it like that. And we're just going to pin this in place. You can pin the other two ends of the bag as well. And we repeat for the other end. Open your seams. And you join them together. Then pin in place. Smooth out. We're going to turn over again now and see what it looks like when the bag is now fully enclosed. And it has a base. Now we are going to repeat the same process with the fabric that we'll be using for the lining. Right sides facing each other. What I want you to take note of here is that for the lining, you won't enclose all the three ends completely. So we have already done one side and the base. So what you will do, just like how we did the cord organizer, you're going to leave a little section open that you will use to pull the back through. Stop about there, reverse. Also, I am going to sew off. So that is just done to secure, to prevent any tearing, being that the piece that we'll be pulling through, which is the right side of the bag, is thicker because it has the fusible pellon onto it. And then you continue your seam down. So again, we're at the corners. So we're meeting our seams. have it. This is going to be the inside of our bag. You have your opening there, pull the back through. So our next step that we'll be doing is that we will be doing that stitch to close off the raw edge of the bag, and we will have our inside piece and our outside piece. So what I will do now is that I'm going to turn back my lining piece out on the wrong side. Make sure to pay attention to this part and a little tricky. So we have our lining piece wrong side out. And you're going to place the outer piece of your bag inside of it. And the right sides need to be facing each other, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the right side into the lining piece. After I would have done that, I'm going to, again, you use your seams as a marker. So you join the seams. You can just pin that in place, that it doesn't move. Always keep them open. The best thing to do while sewing is that you constantly press. So the more open and flat your seams are, the better it is when the product is completely finished. Now I'm just going to go around and do that stitch at the top. After we have done this stitch, we're going to find where that opening was, the side, which is here, and we're just going to take hold of the inner piece, which is the outside of the bag, and we're going to put it through. Now for this opening, you might just want to do a neat stitch to keep it closed to prevent any small object or item being trapped on the inside of the bag. So again, you just finger press the seams together, estimate or check where that opening would have started. Reinforce. You have the inside, the outside. We're going to need to press this down so that it stays nicely and crisp. But before I move on to that, I am going to just sew the strap of the bag, which is optional. So I had my 2 pieces infused with the pellon. Just gonna turn the right side facing in. And we're gonna sew down on either side. So when you get to the end, you secure. You're not going to come over and carry down the stitch. So we secure the stitch at both extreme ends. Here we have our strap, and we are going to turn over to the wrong side. The right side, sorry. Okay, there's a little trick that I like to use, you know, being at home and doing little projects, not having all the equipment. Whenever I have a strip sewn together to turn over, a safety pin it there, then I turn it down and feel it to guide through. Remove our safety pin. And here we have our strip. Also, it's in need of a little ironing, but I'm just going to mildly finger press, open the seams as much as I can. And also what we want to do is that we are going to turn in both ends again. We don't want any raw edges showing. So to keep the neatness as well as the durability. We're just gonna top stitch right around our strap on all sides. And we're at the end. You secure your stitch. So I have our strap and we have the body of our bag. So we're going to move over to the ironing board to just ensure some neatness before completing our bag. For the bag, you want to focus on areas like this part in particular. Just kind of open the seams with your fingers before pressing to ensure that it's flat. Just do that all the way around. Focus on the outer seams. Just straighten the inside, make sure that the lining where the base is flat, and then you can do a fold over to reveal your wonderfully printed lining fabric, which is the inside of your bag. And you can carry that down as far as you would like. So I have my bag completed and I have my strap. So I'm just going to go over back to the sewing machine and install my strap, which is optional, of course. Bag is perfectly fine without, but I think this gives it a nicer edge and also more usability. You can hold the bag on the strap. So where I have made my fold, I'm just going to pin that, keep it in place. Make sure that it is as even as possible. Then I would put my strap, I would sew it onto the bag below the fold. So I'll just pin that in place. Do it to the other side so I have a clear idea of what I'm doing. I'm going to be doing a similar stitch, the X stitch, that was used earlier to secure the string onto the cord organizer. once you can clearly see your X, you can reinforce and remove from the machine. Again, that method is optional. You could have just done a stitch around like that. So I'm going to repeat. Remove all the additional threads and the pins. And here you have a very handy storage bin, very unique. And you can have them in different sizes. This is a small. You can grade down the pattern to get an even smaller size. The smaller items, cosmetic items, jewelry items, as well as it could be much larger, so you grade up. So that's it with the optional strap.
All right, so our last product idea that we're going to look at is a fashion accessory. So we're looking at the interchangeable belt and also the leather buckle. Now this one is a homemade buckle. Reason being, these are not often easily found in the trimming stores where you have that centerpiece only and persons might have that preference. So if you have material at home that can be used like the vinyl or the leatherette, you can go ahead and with the aid of silicone or what I like to call fabric glue. This is a small one bought at Ping's, $150. So it is interchangeable. Velcro is on the inside. So you can make as much as these as you would like. Different colors, fabric type, patterns, prints, and you can change as much as you like with your buckle. So it's another way of accessorizing your outfit, versus wearing a head wrap, a scarf, or possibly tying a string around your waist, I don't know, but that solves the problem. So I'm going to go right over to the tutorial.
Okay, so our final gift item would be the leather belt buckle and interchangeable belt. So with this one, I'm just going to go right ahead onto the fabric. So this is the chosen pattern for this item. So what I have done is that I create a fold, and the width of this fold is 3.5 inches. So I made sure to measure down 3.5 inches just to make sure that the measurement is equal. And then what I will do after is that I'm going to go ahead and cut along the edge. So this piece is going to be our interchangeable belt. Now the next part is the leather buckle. So we're doing a homemade leather buckle. If you have any scrap pieces of leather lying around, like this piece here, it can come in very handy. And then the next thing that you want to have is 2 different circular measurements to get the shape of the buckle. For the wider circle, a nice size is having a 2.5 inch wide circle. Then one that is smaller, this is 1.5, about 1.5 inches, which is good. So what you will simply do is turn your leather onto the wrong side, facing up, and you are going to put down your wider circular item, and you're going to trace around it. Do that twice. Then for the smaller circle, what you want to do is to try to get it as even as possible. So you're going to look carefully. Whenever you're comfortable, you go ahead and draw the outline of that smaller circle. Repeat. Now, I do not have a pre-done pattern for this one in particular, for the buckle section, but what you can do is you have your own piece of brown paper. You can trace it once, make sure that you have that, and then you can use it repeatedly. To get the center bar, I'm going to be using the tape measure. Find that center, then I mark along the sides. And you repeat. After you're through with this, you can either use a stencil knife or scissors, whichever you are more comfortable with. I find that the scissor works very well. You're just going to take your time and cut along the outline. So to be more specific, you're cutting on the outside of the outline, not on the inside or in the middle, on top of the outline. Again, you might find that a stencil knife works for you in getting these inside pieces. So if you're using a scissors like I have, you just nip in the center of your negative space, and then you just work your way down along the outlines. So not to worry, all is not lost if you're not using a stencil knife. There we go. Now we have both sides of our buckle. Now the next step is that we are going to get what I like to call fabric glue, otherwise known as silicone glue. So you want to get the glue evenly distributed . On both pieces. And you can let it stand for a couple seconds. After which, place on top of each other. Make sure it's even. Leave to dry while you're working on the other part of the belt. So here we have our fabric. And we're also going to repeat the process of using our fusible pellon to strengthen our material, being again that it is something that will be used over time. You want it to be as sturdy as possible. So I'm going to move over to the iron board and fuse the pellon onto the fabric. You can base the length of your belt to a previous measurement of current belts that you have. So there is no set measurement. It depends on your preference undersides. Just trimming away all the excess spill on the sides. Then what I'm about to do next is that I am going to fold a 1/2 inch seam allowance right around. The reason for this is because I'm not going to turn it over. Being that it's a longer strip of fabric, it might be a little more problematic. So we're going to neatly make these seams, and then we are going to do a top stitch. Now we're going to move over to the sewing machine. So what we will do now is that we're going to meet the edges and we're going to sew top stitch right around the length and the width. Here we have our interchangeable belts. I'm going to check back on the buckle. So I have it here. So the belt itself is going to be a little wider than the opening, so you can just make a fold. Just to give you an idea. And that would be the close. Now the concept of it being interchangeable, this is a twist. So we are going to have Velcro sewn here and here to close over the buckle, and you can make as many bands with different prints and patterns and colors as you would wish, and you can have them to interchange with your leather belt buckle here. So I'm going to get the Velcro, and I'm just going to do that. But before, we are just going to mark where it is that we want our Velcro stitched on. So that feels good. And it would be here and right there. After you would have made your mark, we're going to get the Velcro. So here we have our piece of Velcro. So we're going to measure based on the fabric. We're going to separate our pieces. And where we would have made our marks, we're going to put the pieces there and stitch. So I'm going to start with this one here. Pin in place. And if you're unsure, or just to double check, just to be certain, you're going to put back your belt through the bottom. You test it, and then you're sure that this piece would go on here. Look for your mark that you would have made previously. There. Pin the Velcro in place. And you proceed to stitching it on. There you have it.
Okay, everyone, so those were our 3 product ideas. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you found them useful. And yes, I believe that they will make very viable business ideas to profit off if you're willing to take up the challenge. You don't need much. As you can see, I was using a domestic machine, pretty affordable at Courts and other stores, and the material as well is easy to come by locally. And also the fashion item, very useful. The storage bag, very essential home item, which is one of the areas to tap into, especially during this COVID period. You know, a lot of persons are focusing on the home, enhancing the appearance, and also to add comfort in this time. And of course, our charger roll-up, which is very essential as well, very useful. So functional gifts, I believe, is the way to go. So again, I hope you enjoyed and you learned something. I will hand over to Dania.
All right, thank you very much, Makedia. Simply fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, we explored 3 different product ideas for the season, not just for the season, but generally that is applicable throughout the year, that you may utilize, but would make really excellent gifts for persons. And Makedia, you mentioned that we had the charger holder, the storage bag, and we have the interchangeable belt. But ladies and gentlemen, please remember some of the other areas that Makedia highlighted during the tutorial, that some of these products can actually be altered to make other products, right, Makedia? So, oh, I think you're muted.
Yes, Dania, that is correct.
Right, so the charger holder, which to me is very interesting as well, it can be utilized as a makeup bag and so many other alternatives once you get creative with it, as well as a storage bag / bin. You know, it can hold your clothes, it can hold different things that you may like depending on the size that you may want as well. So I really love the fact, Makedia, that these products, you can utilize them in your everyday activities, but you can also add a little twist to it and get several different products as well. Anything you want to add to that, or?
Oh, Dania, that was perfectly said, and you guys would have seen the tutorial. Really not difficult.
Yeah.
I have the pattern pieces, but as you can see, they're basic shapes, squares and rectangles. Also, they're not necessary. A lot of persons prefer to work directly onto the fabric. They're simple measurements, so you can just measure across and cut your fabric from there.
Okay, and I'm seeing where Kamisha Morrison had asked, which I'm assuming she's speaking about the Pelon, but just to mention the question. But Kamisha Morrison surely said that she had stepped away from her computer for a minute, so she wanted to get an idea of the name of the white material that you ironed onto the fabric. I believe it was when you were doing the storage bag. So I'm assuming that's Pelon, but can.
Yes, so that material is the fusible Pelon. You can get it in the fabric stores as well, both Pings and Pablos. I believe it's $200 a yard for where I bought it. Also, just to note for the bag, if you can get a sturdier Pelon too, that would be preferred as well. So actually keep some more structured shape.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, Makedia. Cherie Bench is saying, creativity for the win. Will this be uploaded to the YouTube channel to follow along afterwards? And certainly it will. It will be uploaded to YouTube, and you can definitely take your time when watching that video to follow whatever Makedia was doing during those tutorials, whether for all 3 products or for one specific one. So it will be uploaded to our YouTube page, JBDC Jamaica, as well as our previous webinars that we have done. So please head on over there to check out our previous webinars. This one won't be up probably today, but more or less by next week or so, it will be up. And so you can get a chance to follow the excellent tutorial that Makedia prepared just for you. Even the background music was very good. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing where corporate communications has even said, Makedia, very good session. The creativity in me was awoken or has awoken. Okay. All right. Kamisha Morrison is saying thank you. Vanessa Hilton is saying this was very creative and inspirational. Thank you. And Kamisha Morrison has also said awesome tutorial. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to keep it too long. So if you have any other quick questions or comments that you want to make for to Makedia or ask her, you can just go ahead and type it in the chat or just click on the icon indicating that you want to raise your hand and we will respond. But it was pretty straightforward, so I'm not assuming that there will be a significant amount of questions or so forth, but just to give you the option or the opportunity if you want to do so very quickly. So Makedia, in the interim, can you just remind persons, because we may have some new participants here, of some of the services that are available within your product development unit?
All right, so just as a reminder, so I'm from the product development team. My area of specialty is fashion design. So we offer consultation sessions if you have a business idea or you have products that you want to work on to improve. That is where we would come in. We offer services like doing garment labels, which are essential in putting into your clothing items, and other products too. And also we have the incubator space, fashion incubator, that you can rent. We have daily rates, weekly, monthly. So you can just call us, speak to me or the other fashion officer, who would be Robert Hall, and we will work with you from there.
Okay. And you provide so much support to persons within the fashion industry. So we're really grateful for that. So I know once you get in contact with Makedia or Robert, you'll be in excellent hands. Okay, just to let you know as well that, you know, we provide other services here at the JBDC Incubator and Resource Center. So we have the visual communications department, we have the food unit, we have our engineers, we have so many other areas that are available to support you. So you can contact the Incubator and Resource Center via any one of our telephone numbers, 876-758-3966-8. That's 876-758-3966-8. Or you can send JBDC a general email at info@jbdc.net, or you can give us a call at 928-516-125. I left out the 876, but that's 876-928-516-125, just in case you want to access any of JBDC's additional services, such as general business advice and support. So I believe that's the first point of entry anyway, so it's always best to speak to a business advisor first. I am not seeing any additional questions right now. So I believe that should be it for us, Makedia. Such an excellent tutorial and presentation, well put together, and I'm sure that persons will be able to utilize it to make as many products with their own variations or creativity added to it for this season, to either earn some money or to just give persons as potential gifts. And next week, we will be looking at simple techniques in bead making. Okay. Okay, next week we will be looking at simple techniques in bead making, so please do not miss that. We will be embarking on a series of webinars that will be looking on product ideas that will be very helpful to you, our viewers. Okay, I'm seeing Cleopatra Behari is asking for Makedia's contact information to be repeated. So Makedia, you can just go ahead and repeat that for her, please. You're muted, Makedia.
Sorry about that. So you can call the office numbers. I believe Dana would have those. Also, you can reach me via email address, which is mpryce@jbdc.net. So mpryce@jbdc.net.
Right. And if you missed our office numbers that I had mentioned before, it's 876-758-3966 That's 876-758-3966 So please don't forget to check out this tutorial and any one of our other host of webinars that we previously did on our YouTube page. And don't forget, you can also access us on social media at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, any one of those social media platforms. You can access us as well to get additional information or support. It was absolutely a pleasure having you all here today. It was absolutely our pleasure to have you here, Makedia. Always a wonderful presenter. And we look forward to having you here again. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to you being a part of our webinar next week. As I said, it will be simple techniques in bead making, and it will be a very special presenter for you that will be teaching you some fantastic techniques as well. All of our presenters are experts and excellent at what they do. So until next week, please take care of yourselves. Makedia, please be safe too. Protect yourselves from the heavy rains, corona, everything that's out there. Please be safe and take care. So thank you very much for being here today.